Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Vital and it is my absolute pleasure to help you answer an extremely important question you may be facing, which is how to choose your mid-size adventure motorcycle. Here we've got the new BMW F 900 GS and a KTM 890 Adventure, which are suspiciously closely matched on paper. Even their power is the same, while the weight is an equivalent of a difference of drinking a few beers or not. And there's one more thing, both are engineered by German-speaking people. This is a really close one already, but after riding them both along other mid-size adventure motorcycles, there are major differences in given fields. Because of this, my comparison is divided into separate categories, and I assess both of these motorcycles in regard to these categories to let you focus on those that are the most important to you. If you're about handling, if you're into suspension, engine or position comfort, you will learn which bike does that better than the other. It is still all subjective, we all know that. While having ridden all of them and also all large adventure motorcycles, I've got a pretty decent view on the whole segment and know what all these motorcycles are capable of. In the end of the video, I'll tell you which bike I would choose and why. Let's start off with engine and performance, where both of these bikes have the same power of 105 horsepower now, and almost identical engine displacement, BMW 895 cubic centimeters and KTM 889 cubic centimeters. Both have two cylinders which are in an inline setup, so there are many similarities, but KTM has more torque at 100 Newton meters. BMW has 7 less, so 7% less, very simple math, so I would not take away the pleasure of mentioning that. For myself, BMW has 93 Newton meters. But what does that mean in real life conditions? This is what matters, and here it's quite hard for me to define clear differences, as this new BMW F 900 GS has its engine improved so much from being totally boring before that now I feel it is matching KTM. Well, there is still some more of that effortless excitement that KTM gives us, I feel. So perhaps KTM is just a bit ahead in terms of power delivery and how quick it may be, but it's really just a tiny feeling and it would go either way when accelerating them head to head, I feel. Both gain speed very quickly, both pull hard from the lowest RPM, which is cool, but there is still something at KTM that makes it stand out even more. Maybe it's slightly better flexibility, maybe the power delivery is very smooth, and because of this it feels like the whole process is even easier for the whole bike. I'm not sure, but then there are a few other things that are related. First is heat management, which is not an issue for BMW, but it is a huge problem for KTM, which gets extremely freaking hot, transferring all that heat to the rider's legs and their bum. On a hot day in the city, it is a freaking disaster. Now then there is a transmission quick shifter, which is very good in a KTM, but it's pretty much perfect in a BMW. So overall I prefer the performance of the KTM, while the whole experience associated with the engine has to go to BMW, as it's very closely matched performance-wise. And in the end of the day, it's a win for BMW, just a bit, but I feel it deserves it, as there's nothing going wrong and everything is just at a very high level. The second category is handling, which is also important to all of us. This only starts to grow in terms of importance once you ride a few motorcycles and notice how different there might be when it comes to turning into corners. Riding some is joyful, while being on some others is not that much. It can be life-changing once you realize that. So here BMW does pretty well, as it's nicely balanced, it is not nervous and turns easily, except for the fact that the handlebar is harder to move than in KTM, despite the one in the KTM being quite narrow. It doesn't make anything worse, and it's just an observation when it comes to differing the width. When gaining speed riding faster, BMW requires you to put more effort into turning, but let's say it's not a surprise because the bike has a large front wheel with a 21-inch rim in the front. Well, KTM does so too, but it feels easier to turn at higher speeds in my opinion. I feel that KTM requires less from you as a rider when it comes to switching directions. It is more compliant and simply easier to deal with. Both bikes are predictable and stable whenever you either brake or accelerate when in a lean. They keep their line well, and that's important. To me, KTM does it better when it comes to handling, and it is my winner. If you would like to focus on more subtle details, I suggest that you watch my full honest reviews of these bikes that are linked in the description of the video. Now, number 3 is suspension, and first of all, both bikes roll on wheels that have 21-inch rims in the front, and then KTM's wheel in the rear has an 18-inch rim and BMW has a 17-inch one. BMW has more suspension travel, which is 23 centimeters in the front versus 20 centimeters of KTM's front suspension travel, and then there's 21.5 centimeters for BMW in the rear versus 20 centimeters for KTM. BMW that I've ridden is equipped with an Enduro Pack Pro, and I feel that many riders would actually go for it. But I need you guys to know that just in case. Both bikes have manually adjustable suspensions. None of these is especially comfortable, but they are rather on the stiffer side. KTM seems to dive more when braking, and the BMW may feel slightly more planted there. Overall, both feel under control, with KTM being maybe just a bit more composed when riding over different things. It's a really tough one for me to assess, as these two have their setups quite closely matched, and there are no significant differences that would make me tell you that one does something well while the other does it badly. A close match, but I have the deep feeling of preferring KTM when it comes to suspension. I think I may point at the KTM as the winner here, but with super small differences overall. Let's talk about the seat and position comfort now. And you know it's going to be a good topic if you look at my 7G11 electric office chair from Power Seats. This is top of the top when it comes to sitting, and if you're into all of that like I am, go to powerseats.eu. You may also find a Rolls-Royce Phantom electric chair there from time to time. Now in KTM there is a really comfortable seat, which is rather wide if you'd ask me, and it's adjustable between 84 and 86 centimeters, which is unusual in this segment of bikes. Even the lower position provides an acceptable knee angle for me, and this, I think, is quite important. The issue for me is only with the gear lever position, that is too hard for me to reach. Well, you gotta reach to that quite often, But I like the position and width of the handlebar. It is actually also fine when I'm on the BMW, where the handlebar seems wider, but it's not a night and day difference that would make me feel like I've got so much more control on the BMW rather than the KTM. The knee angle is also fine, but BMW has it seated 87 centimeters, so rather high. This may positively influence the knee angle, but obviously you may be in trouble if you're shorter or have, well, simply shorter legs. I'm 1 meter 83 centimeters tall or 6 feet tall. The seat could be a tiny bit lower for my liking. Well, you cannot have that since it's not adjustable. The seat is okay, but I like the one in KTM more. This one in BMW has a fine shape, but the other one just suits me more for whatever reason. It's subjective, obviously. Also, here the handlebar is higher in a base F900 GS, as this one is equipped with an Enduro Pro Pack. It influences that. Anyhow, KTM wins here in terms of comfort of sitting for me. Moving to the topic of wind protection. None of these motorcycles utilizes an adjustable windscreen, which is such a shame, damn it. In BMW, the screen is far from perfect, and over 100 km per hour, it is simply bad, and it doesn't provide much protection at all. KTM's screen is close to perfect until you ride in the city on a warm day when the high level of wind protection becomes your nightmare and your enemy. All that heat from the engine that I mentioned before, heat from the sun, the warm air around you, all that makes you boil, and you cannot even get pretty much any airflow as the screen is just too effective. Yeah, I know how it sounds. But this is when you wish there was adjustment and you would be able to lower that beautiful, awesome screen. For touring, it's great, as there's basically no turbulences behind it and just some small mix of air around when riding faster. Now, KTM absolutely destroys BMW here in terms of effectiveness, obviously, unless it's a hot day and a slow-moving traffic. But seriously, KTM wins. The next chapter is about the brakes, where both bikes have them good in terms of strength and ease of dosing. BMWs usually have it done well, and F900 GS is no exception here. In KTM, there's only one issue, which is with the rear brake lever being also hard to use because of its weird position. This is why I point to BMW as a winner in the brakes category. Comparing the drivetrains, both are the same, having chain drive, so nothing exciting here. BMW has its chain golden, who cares? I call it a tie with no winners or losers. Then comes the category number 8 and fuel tanks. Well. Here is some serious contest as one bike has 14.5 liters while the other is not so shy and comes up with 20 liters. Guess which one has which? Obviously, with such a large difference, the larger fuel tank is simply more convenient, and since it's KTM that gives us the larger one, so 20 liters, it wins. BMW with 14.5 liters went quite far with weight savings. I would say that this is too little, really. Now the topic of weight. It's a close one here. BMW comes with 219 kilograms while KTM brings 215, both already with full fuel tanks. Mind you that KTM carries more fuel, by the way. Now, what counts though is how it feels in real life. Numbers, even if the differences are large, sometimes it just does not really matter that much. BMW doesn't feel too heavy, but it's taller, so the weight may seem like it's located higher, and hence it likely is. It does feel harder to move around and play with compared to KTM. 890 Adventure feels quite light, and I like the idea of being easy to manage. It's not a small bike, but it seems smaller than it is, also when riding, so not only standing next to it. I feel that KTM overall seems more approachable, and so it wins here. What about the aspect of onboard technology? Both motorcycles can have heated grips, front LED lights, riding modes, cruise control, quick shifters, cornering ABS and traction control. KTM brings a fun display to the table, while BMW can have keyless ignition. It can also have tire pressure monitoring system and keyless fuel cap. To me, this is more significant options than KTM offers, so BMW wins. 11th point of this comparison is sound, and while it's quite subjective, to me it's important. BMW comes with a semi-aftermarket exhaust here. It's from Akrapovic, and well, it sounds better than KTM. It's not bad in 890 Adventure, as it's not super quiet, which usually is an issue with new motorcycles. But in the end of the day, BMW just sounds more aggressive, more serious, and just more fun to me. Both bikes have similar engine setups with 2 cylinders in line, so it would be a fair fight if both had truly aftermarket exhausts. Now it goes to BMW. Next, we've got to talk about the design, and I'm going to be quick. To me, as again it's a very personal one, I really like the way BMW looks, as it looks slick and strong, like a fit bike, whatever this would mean. But KTM, on the other hand, it looks just a bit sloppy and like a dog with its head down. Dog with the face of an insect, by the way. It's not pretty. Proportions aren't that impressive compared to BMW. The F900 GS is, well, it is my winner here. It is my hero here. If you guys feel the same or you prefer the looks of KTM, please do let me know in the comments. I'll be curious to see who prefers what in terms of design for the moment. Now, okay, moving to the category that's before the last one, and it's price and value for money. I would say that these two seem to be closely matched in terms of overall value. Closely, but not identical. So how are they priced in their base versions? KTM is 13.5% more expensive than BMW in such setup, and considering the brand reputation, overall appeal of the showrooms, both brands, image of the brands, BMW does that better. KTM has some reliability related PR issues. This includes the 890 engine powered bikes, while BMW also is being complained about in terms of its 900cc engine routes. I'm not sure what this is about in BMW, but my conclusion is that BMW has better reputation while being now, here, in this case, less expensive. To me, it sounds like a safer and smarter deal because of that. Of course, it may differ across countries and even single dealerships offer, so check that out. But here and now, BMW looks like a better deal with higher value for money, and it wins here. Alright then, the last one, before I tell you which bike I prefer, is the X Factor category. It ain't easy, as I'm a guy that values performance a lot, and both of these give me that on the highest level in the segment. What's cool is great handling, and here KTM wins slightly with BMW, but it's not that super crazy exciting to immediately take over. I also care about the looks, and here BMW comes on top, so thinking which bike I would be more eager to jump on and start riding and having fun, I really struggle to tell you. My heart tells me that the orange bike is kind of more cool and original, but I feel that I would prefer to have that fun on a BMW. Somehow it feels like a package that doesn't annoy me in any way, and that's also exciting, let's say. So in terms of X factor, I say BMW wins to me, especially adding to that its nicer sounding exhaust. So BMW wins in energy and performance, it wins in brakes category, tech sound, design, price and value for money, and X factor. KTM takes the win in handling, in suspension, seat and position comfort, wind protection, fuel tanks, and weight. I feel that BMW is for those still valuing a safer choice, while on the road both bikes can be super crazy and exciting. KTM dealerships and overall experience with some issues and annoyances here and there, it just makes it feel like we may be getting less for more actually. There is this whole subscription thing that you've got to pay to be able to have quick shifter, even though the bike already has it. The dealer network is not very impressive. They don't have a lot of models to try and test, which is ridiculous. Then there are certainly more parts availability issues and more angry clients likely, at least in terms of ratio. BMW just looks like a smarter choice, and that's the bike that I would go with here. KTM maybe for brands fans and those who just want to be very different and not go with BMW for whatever reasons. But then there's plenty of bikes to choose from in such a case. Try the Ducati Multistrada V2 for example, or the Japanese bikes. Now, height of the BMW, it's not an issue, as you may get a lowered seat and the issue is done. Now, to get the full perspective, watch my full honest reviews of each KTM and BMW that are linked in the description of the video. And now, let me know which bike seems to you like a better choice and why. Let's see.